This show, this show is
Is
called.
Dad Save the Internet? Hey,
That's right.
is there a single key to excellence? Today, we're going to examine Aristotle's answer, plus the simplest way to improve in all five areas of life, and stay to the end where we're going to share the foolish little mind trick our culture is using to sabotage you.
That's right. Welcome to Dad
Hey,
Save the Internet. This is a show where we teach guys, or this is a show that teaches guys like us, the great wisdom of the past to help us navigate the treacherous waters of the online world.
and they can be treacherous. I'm Brandon
Oh, yeah.
Wilborn, a God loving husband, father, author, and serial entrepreneur.
And I'm Dennis Wilborn, God loving husband, father, older brother, entrepreneur, coach, and incessant encourager.
Oh, okay. Today we're talking about excellence, brother. So I'll ask you again: is there a single key to excellence, or to being most excellent, as Bill and Ted would say?
Most excellent dude. Gosh, remember that show?
That just
Wow, that was
drives right
ancient.
into our first segment here. The power of diligence is the topic of the day, right? Diligence
Power of
being what
diligence.
leads. Yeah. So let's look at the Solomon says. This is our renamed segment from Word to the Wise because we thought it sounds a little bit more active and it has alliteration.
Yeah, totally. Hmm.
All right.
Solomon says.
So let's add this in here. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit.
Did
And
Solomon say that?
bonus point, it is not Solomon, but bonus points if you know who did say it. It's
Ooh.
not Aristotle, as
Oh,
frequently goes around on the
damn.
memes.
Aristotle.
Memes, no,
Well,
Solomon,
hey, if it's
Aristotle.
not him, it must have been Abraham Lincoln. Oh no,
No.
Will Durant.
So there's a man named Will Durant, and it was in a book called The Story of Philosophy, and he was trying to describe Aristotle's view. So in discussing Aristotle's idea about what made a life excellent, and primarily a life of virtue, a life of moral virtue, moral excellence is what he was talking about. But here's the longer Aristotelian version. The good of man
Arist-
is a
I think it's
working of the soul.
Aristotelian.
Sure, I just
Aristotelian, isn't it?
Aristotelian, yeah. Either way.
Sorry. All
It
right, go
just
ahead.
sounds like aristocratic, Aristotelian. Yeah, anyway.
I like
The
Aristotelian. I think it sounds pretty good. Aristotelian.
yeah,
Although it sounds reptilian. No, anyway, go ahead.
not reptilian. The good
No,
of
not
man,
reptilian.
the good of man is a working of the soul in the way of excellence in a complete life. For it is not for as it is not one swallow or one fine day that makes a spring, so it is not one day or a short time that makes a man blessed and happy. So you can
That is
see,
a yeah.
yeah, the idea of it takes a long time to develop excellence, and you develop it by doing.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
go
You do
back
it
to
by
the first
doing.
idea of
So what the first idea
excellence, which is
was,
a habit.
yeah, excellence is a habit. It's consistency. It's diligent work in the direction of the way you want to go. And if you want to be excellent, you got to be diligently working towards. I like the word diligent, although these days the most common word is like what's the word?
Self
Consistency. You want to be
consistency,
consistent. Yeah. Oh yeah. I
consistent
mean,
self
that's what you
discipline.
see on all the motivational videos these days. Consistent work, consistency. I mean, yeah. Look it up. It's amazing.
Look it up. I think self discipline is the other potential word because diligence is work that you do over and over again, right? It is work,
Mhm.
persistent work toward a goal. So persistent, consistent, but it's about the work because you can be consistently lazy.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Consistency is a dangerous word because you could apply that to laziness, and
Yeah.
you could apply that to. I'm gonna put us side by side so you can see each other. Yeah, you can be consistently lazy. You could be consistently eating donuts and or something, and then it's not a good thing. But diligence is consistent work, constantly working towards a goal.
Yeah. I'm going to add this back in here because we have, I would say that there are a couple of proverbs here that fit the same idea and they use the word
Solomon
diligent.
says. Hmm.
There you go. Solomon says. The hand of the diligent will rule, but the slack hand will be put to forced labor. Not a rosy picture.
Slack hand, like slack, like
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
like
yeah, I like that. Like
the work chat
slacker,
program. Yeah, yeah.
like that guy from what was that movie? Back to the Future. Hey, slacker. Remember the principal
I
from
don't,
Back to the Future? He always
right, right,
called
right.
people slacker.
The principal. Yeah, forgot about him.
Yeah, you always
So the
were a
other one would
slacker.
be, yeah.
Couldn't help it.
The other one is the next one. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to advantage, but everyone who is hasty surely comes to poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Now,
not a great picture, but it shows you that idea of diligence, consistent work, not consistent laziness, or trying to rush in there and get something done all at once, right?
right, and that's really an important point. I guess we'll get to a little bit later, but yeah, you don't want to, you know, you're not going to get rich quick, and if you do, it's not the same thing. Getting rich quick will often lead to poverty. I mean, don't believe me? Look
Yeah.
at all the lottery winners who end up
There's some
broke.
proverbs about that too.
Yeah, exactly. That's
And
a good point. Yeah.
yeah, I think what we want to get at is the we put on the thumbnail about don't just do it. We talked about a little bit about in our pre-show about the advice from Nike isn't enough. It's a great motivator, but if you rely on motivation, you're gonna fall short over and over again because
Yeah, I think
you're gonna say
yeah.
I don't feel like it that day.
I don't feel like it. I think that's what originally I said. Well, I think our title should be "What Nike Got Wrong About Just Do It."
I said
But
what they
I
left
think
off.
yeah, what they left off, what they got wrong, and because I'm a clickbaiter, I'm looking for the clickbait. But don't just do it. I think they should have said, well, not should have. I mean, obviously, they could have said, just keep doing it. How about that? Oh, wow.
I think that doesn't have quite the ring to it.
Well, you know what they say.
But
What can I say?
It's a more true message, but it is a harder message, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. We don't like hard things these days.
We don't. But
Well,
I think
a lot
that's
of people
the core
don't.
is don't just do it. Just do it every day.
Well, I like that. Yeah, just
Yeah,
do it
that
every
one
day.
works. Don't just
Mhm.
do it. Just do it every day. And there's
Yeah, but
a book.
again, that doesn't really fit on a slogan. Just don't just do it. Just do it every day. Mm-hmm.
Just do it over and over and over and over, and that is how we get excellence. I think. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
the Aristotelian man. That's
Ooh,
tough
there
one
he
for me
goes.
right now. That was the idea he was getting at for moral excellence, but it also applies to excellence in any endeavor, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Anything you do,
So
you put your mind to it, put your hands to it, and do it as best you can. Yeah,
yeah, there's a book
consistently and diligently. Yes.
consistently and diligently. The other word we might throw on there would be another one we don't like to hear, which is
Discipline.
Janet. Where's the air? It is
Is it discipline, right?
from
Yeah,
Mike
I knew it was
Tyson.
discipline.
You're nothing without discipline because you
Mm-hmm.
give up in the slightest struggle without discipline. He was talking to Joe Rogan on that one, and
Do you
he
watch
obviously
Joe
said
Rogan?
it. I don't, but I caught a little motivational video with this particular speech, and it hit me as being what we were talking about. Diligence and self-discipline go hand in hand, even if they're not entirely the same thing. They kind of they're in the same family of thought, right? And so, yeah, you can't give up. You got to keep going.
Yeah, that's right.
There was
That's
a
right.
book I read recently called "Just Do the Work," or not "Just Do the Work," "Do the Work" by Stephen Pressfield, and it's a good one if you want to get a different perspective on kind of it's coming from a atheistic or at least a secular kind of humanist perspective, but it acknowledges the challenge of discipline and self discipline and diligence in that it acknowledges that when you try to do anything worthwhile, you are going to experience some level of resistance. And that resistance, whether it is just your own laziness and your own human nature, or whether you might even consider it from a spiritual perspective, opposition from an active, intelligent enemy, you're going to experience that. And the key to it is just do it. Do the work every day.
Yeah, just do it, as Arnold would say. What?
Would he
So I
say
don't
it
think he
that
ever
way?
said that.
I don't
I
know
don't
if he
know. I
ever
mean,
said.
if he was doing a Nike commercial, he might say
He
that.
often he would if he was doing a Nike commercial and being paid millions of dollars.
Yeah,
Just do
exactly.
it so that I get
Just
paid.
do it. I need more money. Yeah.
Get to the top, Papa. Just do it.
Actually, it's funny. I was listening to another one of those clips that you see all over the on motivation stuff, and Arnold had was given a talk. I don't remember where it was, but he was saying that some people ask him how can because Arnold's getting pretty old. I mean, he's like what 70 something, maybe.
He's
No,
getting
I
up
think
there. Yeah.
he's getting up there, right? But he still works out every day, and his he was asked, well, why do you work out every day at your age, and his response was something like, you know, no, why do I eat breakfast every day? Why do I sleep every day? Why do I wake up in the morning? That kind of thing, uh, because it's who he is, and he's made it so much of a part of a habit and a part of his life that it's gotten to the point where if he doesn't train, he doesn't feel satisfied or something.
Yeah. And
Satisfied.
I've heard similar from people who overall have that kind of level of discipline and diligence, is that they start to feel not themselves when they're not doing the thing that they've been practicing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good advice, man.
What does that tell you?
Cool. Well, I
All right.
tell you what, we're talking about discipline, we're talking about diligence. And while we discuss working diligently for good, I'm willing to bet that regardless of your political affiliation, you think those rotten scoundrels on the other side, that side over there, are working twice as hard as you at nefarious ends. Well, if you hate the idea of those ne'er-do-wells taking away our fundamental rights, then I think you'll enjoy Uncivil Liberties, a series of short thrillers by John Beam that I published through my company, Big Light Books. Uncivil Liberties follows a mysterious hero known to most as St. George, and as he searches for those responsible for murdering his family, he uncovers a plot to undermine our constitutional system. In each short installment, St. George uncovers a new way his enemies are attacking the God-given rights of everyday Americans. And with the charged political climate, George is usually the only one willing to stand in the gap for those people, even when he disagrees. So, Uncivil Liberties is just as exciting as a Jack Ryan or a Jack Reacher book, but his name isn't Jack. And we get to keep, here at Big Light Books, at least in my company, we keep our content at about a low PG-13 rating or less for audiences who love action, but they don't necessarily want those extremes of gore and hypersexuality and language. So if that sounds like you, head on over to Amazon, or actually that is the only place where it's available, Amazon. And if you've got a Kindle Unlimited subscription, you can read all of them for free with your subscription. Or you can go to bookstoread.com/smear to get the first book of Uncivil Liberties. Uncivil Liberties, which book one is Smear Campaign. And that again is bookstoread.com/smear.
Talk about smear campaign. I read that and I was like, whoa, this is like what's happening in the world today. It's crazy. Good, good books. I mean, I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed that the main character's name isn't Jack, but what can I say? I mean, the author's name is John. He can't name the character after himself, right? John Beam, Jack Beam. Yeah, it doesn't really fit. So yeah, he's got to change it.
Yeah.
Well, Jack is the nickname for John.
Well, his name isn't really George either. That's just his Batman name.
Yeah. St. George. Yeah. I still think it's a good, really good, exciting character. Yeah, I love that book.
Cool.
And yeah.
So, hey, if you're still with us, We would love to have you. We would love to earn your subscription for one. And if you've bothered hitting the subscription button, you might as well hit the bell too, so that you know when we nominate or when we upload new videos. I don't know why I said nominate there, but
Nominate.
leave us a comment about what we were talking about a minute ago. Leave us a comment about your ideas about diligence, self-discipline, and being tongue-tied, because that's what I am today. So, moving on.
I think we've all got the tongue-tied issue on occasion.
Every once in a
But
while.
you know, since we always get into the arenas, let's jump into the arena. And how
Yes.
does diligence apply to the 5 arenas in your life? You know, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, we'll start off talking about faith here, but I think the general answer for all of these is going to be just do the
Does it
work.
start with a D?
The general answer for diligence and achieving excellence in each of these 5 areas is literally the same: do the work.
Right.
But I think
Well,
we
let's
can
talk
talk
about what it looks like.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. What the work looks like in each of those areas. So,
Yeah.
What's your starting thoughts on faith, diligence, and faith?
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! What about faith? When I'm thinking about faith and diligence, you know, speaking from personal experience. Now, when I became a Christian, when I in my 30s, um, you know, the first thing that I was doing that I did was I started reading my Bible every day, and I did it diligently. I didn't have a church because I was out to sea. I was on a ship, so the church was the ship, and I learned by reading my Bible every single day, and that was what I did consistently uh, for years. And then I learned, and then I for some I don't remember how I got out of the habit, but I did. I got out of the habit for a couple of years, and let me tell you, it leads to the bloods. Yeah, it leads to getting swallowed up in worry and concern, and uh, yeah, I never lost faith in God, but I lost a connection. You know, I lost a connection. So for
Mm.
me, Dylan, and so now I'm thankfully back into my habit. I mean, actually, I'm probably better than I ever was before. I don't miss a day um, without spending time in the Word.
Mhm.
Even just a few minutes. But
I know
generally it's
that.
about 15, 20, 30 minutes, depending on
Yeah.
the day.
Excuse me. I know that is at least in the evangelical world, that is going to be the advice typically is go and read your Bible every day and set an appointment with God and do all that stuff. But I know for a lot of
Set an
people,
appointment. Yeah.
I'm serious. I've heard that more than
Is that what
once,
people say? Really?
a lot more than once. Like set it,
Wow.
make it the first thing, and they make it the first thing you do. And I think that there
I have
becomes the
heard that.
potential for a legalistic rigidness in that. That
Yeah, I don't look at it like, yeah, yeah.
that
Go
I
ahead.
think it comes down to, if that is your approach, then it's going to feel legalistic and rigid, and you're not necessarily going to experience meeting God in that time,
Yeah. No,
because
I agree with that assessment.
your heart is in a different
It's a good
spot.
point.
And I
Hmm.
think there are things we can do that benefit us as we try and develop and delve deeper in our relationship with God. Um, Along with what I think reading scripture is the foundational piece, because that is one, what he's revealed to us. It is where he has told us he expects us to live. And so if we are going to try to live faithfully, that's where we go for answers.
Hmm.
So if that's there, if that's, especially if it's something that you have done the work to treasure it in your heart so that it comes to mind when you're pressed. Jesus talked about, out of a good man brings forth treasures from what is stored up in his heart.
Hmm.
Out of the
Hmm.
heart the mouth speaks.
Yeah.
The idea. And so if what's in your heart is God's word, then more of that's going to come out, and more of that is
And yeah.
play out of your decision making overall.
Yeah, and I can
But I
vouch
think
for that too. I mean, that definitely a fact with regards to when I did fail and got into lost the habit of reading diligently every day. Um, you know, in those moments when I was pressed, yeah, absolutely. When I was pressed really hard, yeah, the the what I had read and received from him before in the years prior came back. Now, but for the level of peace and such that I have now, and it's something I've done that's a little bit different than what most people do. It's not just sit down and read for me. Even back when I first started, when I was just reading, I primarily, I always read outside. I always like to go outside and read. I don't know why. But these days I've started listening. I go out and for a walk and I listen to a recorded version, and I can replay and stuff like that. But I combine it with my time with God. And again, it's not always the same time every day. It's not like it's a religious thing. It's a time when I go outside, and it's like a recharge
thing
for me. Oh, hey, yeah, I guess it is. But I mean, anyway, I religiously do my religion. Anyway, well, what about you?
Yeah,
What
I do
does
think
diligence and faith look like for you, bro?
I have to. It is less about the reading, although I do read almost daily, but it is
Mm-hmm.
about the time with God.
Mm-hmm. It's a
It
connection.
is about setting aside the time. And people talk, I mean, motivation, meditation, things like that. But there's something super important about just stepping out of the world and looking at the bigger picture from God's eyes, if possible, or getting an insight from him. And I think that there are times when I'm reading scripture and it's very much an insight from God of what I'm seeing there in the book and how that affects me and what I'm supposed to then do with my life and how I'm supposed to change, or how God is already molding me by pointing that out. Um, Journaling goes a long way for me because I'm responding then. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
the taking in and the response, there's the listening, and then the conversation back and forth. And
Mm-hmm.
then one thing I've struggled with a lot over the years is diligence in other spiritual disciplines. Spiritual disciplines is
There's a reason why they call them disciplines. Yeah.
giving became a habit pretty early on, and I think that one is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Connecting with other believers and connecting with the church is potentially the most important in my mind. Actually, I had a guy I was mentoring, or guy I was meeting with, younger guy, talking about these issues, and he said, "Well, what do you think is most needed?" And I said, "That connection, that reliance on God as your source for
Mm-hmm.
everything, and then a fellowship of believers who you can learn from, and also who you can serve and serve
Mm-hmm.
with, because that is so much of the Christian life is service.
Yeah.
We are not called to just be believers, but we are called to be God's family, acting in God's hands and feet in the world.
Yeah.
So when in that service, we do experience God's blessing. We experience a lot more of God's just love in a way. It's
Yeah.
hard to explain if you're not doing it. So that's a lot
Yeah.
to
It's hard to
say
explain if you're
for
not
that
doing it.
section.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's a good point because the connection with well, I think it's important to remember that the Bible, Jesus, and the apostles, they all call it the body of Christ, the body of Christ, the body of
Mm-hmm.
Christ. There's a reason for that, and you have to stay connected to your body. I mean, what would
Yeah,
if you lose a limb, you're not whole. If you lose
yeah,
some part of yourself, you're not
yeah,
whole. And and the same thing goes with your head. If you lose your connection with God, you're not 100% whole. So I think
yeah.
that you're absolutely right. So that the main thing for me is connection with God directly, and the next one is, you're right, community, community, community.
Yeah. And yeah, it is. Those are probably the two biggest ones. It comes back to that first commandment: love God and love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah,
If you're loving your neighbor,
that's two commandments.
it is So, yeah, but in the scriptures, Jesus says the first commandment is love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and
And the
strength.
second
And the second is like it,
like the
love your
first.
neighbor as
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
You can't,
Mhm.
you, there's scriptures that suggest that you're not loving God if you're not loving your neighbor, because we're, these are his creations. And the idea is, how do you love your neighbor if you're not in community?
Mhm.
If you're holed up by yourself, just you and God, there's challenges to that
Oh,
concept.
that's a whole can of worms we can unlock there. That's
We
but
are
let's
we
move
are we are
on.
long on this segment. So if you've got a
That's all
different
right. That's all right.
perspective, or if we've missed something, let us know in the
Yeah.
comments, and we will we'll try to have that conversation another time, or even in the comments. So,
Or yeah, either in the comments or who knows. If we get a good enough question, maybe we can do a separate video.
sure. Family.
Oh, anybody? Bueller, Bueller.
What is that? What is that? I think again, we go back to do the work. So what's the work look like with family and diligence? To have an excellent family life, to have excellent relationships of any sort, even friendships, what does it look like? And it's, in my mind, not terribly dissimilar to the conversation we just had, which is
Yeah, I was thinking the
about a
same thing.
relationship with God. You
Mhm.
spend the time. You get to know that person, you get to understand who they are and where they're coming from, and then you engage back and forth. And I mean, especially with like parents and kids, this one is where we get off balance. And it seems like we either get into the idea of I'm the parent, so I'm in charge, I'm the disciplinarian, or we go the complete opposite extreme and we go, I don't want to be what my parents were, so I'm going to be my kid's buddy. I'm going to be my kid's friend. And there's this big gap in there that I think where somewhere in the middle is where we need to fall. In my view, yeah, we need to be the authority. We need to have some discipline. We need to lead our children and help them grow up to be what they need to be. But it's also good for them long term to develop a friendship of trust and fun and enjoyment and just genuine care for each other. That's different than friendship.
You took the words right out of my mouth. It is a connection, and it is. I mean, but you're right. I mean, why you didn't take all the words out of my mouth? You put new words in there too. So, no, but I think you're absolutely right. Because
maybe we can
it
start a
is.
ventriloquist road trip next time.
It only works if you can see the dummy, and you couldn't see. Anyway,
And if you can't see the dummy, it's probably yourself. So.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the no, what you're absolutely right. I was thinking the same thing. Diligence with your family is very much like diligence with your with in your faith. Diligence with your connection with God. And that's that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to be I love the sea. I love being a sailor. I love going out to sea and being on the ocean. But I'm not giving up a connection with my family for that. And God bless everybody who does do that. And because it takes a lot to be able to go and leave your family and work offshore, whether you're the Navy or in merchant marine, working offshore, oil industry, any type of job where you have to go away for a long time. That is incredibly tough, and it's incredibly hard work, and it's even harder to maintain a good connection with your family during all of that. So I couldn't do it in my heart, because I want to stay really closely connected. So I give my prayers go out to all those families who do that. um I don't judge
What about in marriage?
anybody. Well,
I mean,
with
it's the basic kinetics are the same of what you might do is spend time and
yeah, well, of course. I mean, and
be
that's
open and honest with them and all that. But
yeah.
anything else that you would say? Anything special in the spousal arena?
in the anything special in the spousal arena. Um, well, like for my wife and I, you know, we. Oh, I mean, we're not religious about it. We don't like make a date, write stuff on the calendars, but we do. We did make a point to come together every day without the kids.
Hmm.
Take, whether it be just for a few minutes, preferably for longer than that. I like to go take walks with my wife and do things outside. But if we can't do that, just hanging out for a few minutes to just decompress at the end of the day, or for her at the end of the day, the middle of my work day is usually when we get to do that. But
Hmm.
you know, just having that time together is really important to stay on the same page, to stay connected again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think I was blessed in our wedding that we had our Greek professor marry us, and he brought some Greek in, and he
yeah,
made
I
this
remember that.
comparison of your relationship can be one of three things. It can be master and servant. It can be equally, master and master, or it can be or it can be servant and servant. Kind of was what he was saying was, one of you can dominate. You can both try to dominate, or you can both serve each other. Dominate from a relationship authority
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah.
and I think that um, that has been the recurring theme that I continue to go back to when I think about if there is conflict, and it's not common because we have a lot of grace for each other, a lot of kind of naturally in our relationship. It goes fairly smoothly most of the time, but when there is conflict, that reminder to think about serving of, okay, do I want to be right, or do I want to actually have a good relationship with my spouse? And and do I want to hold on to something and not apologize because I think that she's overreacting, which is rare, or do I want to try and resolve the situation? I think the leading for me as a man is to be the one who is continually trying to serve and continually trying to uh, direct the relationship gently in making us more and more caring for each other, and really in leading us towards, as a family, how are we serving God together, and that includes serving each other. And that's been a huge reminder.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers," and that's something that I
It's a good
find.
aspiration.
Well, but I find that in the relationship between a husband and wife, at least in my relationship, anyway. I'm not going to talk about anybody else's relationship, but I find myself acting as the peacemaker far more often than the other way around, and I don't mind that. I think it's important that somebody do it.
But by
And
peacemaker, you don't mean um, that kind of people pleasing thing of like, oh, no matter what, I'm always going to be the wrong one.
no,
I'm just going to roll
no,
over and
no,
be that.
no. I'm
Yeah.
not the bare my neck guy, and like the dog on the ground. Oh, please, no.
Which oftentimes turns into a passive aggressive thing. So I mean,
Right,
that's not the
exactly.
way to
And
go.
I would never condone such a thing. No,
Yeah.
I when I say peacemaker, I mean, I'm not the person who will allow something to stay. If there's an issue that needs to be addressed, I'll bring it up. Rather than letting
Yeah.
it go off to the side. If not, but at the same time, I know that not everything is my fault.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just saying.
I think
Waiting
I
for
think the
somebody to argue
general
with me.
the
I'm just
general
no.
idea for a healthy situation, the
But
general idea would be, if it's your fault, own up to it, or at least own up to the portion of it that is your fault.
well,
Being the
I was,
first
I was,
to
I
seek
was get.
peace,
Yeah, exactly.
and then if it's not your fault, you can still attempt to reconcile.
Well, that's that exactly. Even if it's not your
So
fault, even if you're not even involved in the matter, um, you know, hey, trust me. I don't know about your, your wife, but my wife, she gets upset about other people. You know, other things that happen throughout the day. she gets upset about that, and she brings that into the house sometimes. And so my responsibility is to help her get rid of that, get it
Yeah,
out,
hopefully.
you know.
Okay.
And so by peacemaker, I mean, it's not always about bringing peace between me and her, or
Mhm.
her and the
Yeah,
kids, but sometimes with the rest of the world as well.
being
So,
a
you know,
mediator.
yeah, media. That's a good point. Yeah. So,
Okay.
so yeah, being a peacemaker is not just about, oh, it's no, it's my fault. No, no, that's not.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean. Uh,
Yeah.
but
I think the
but
last thing
without
I will.
having that good connection with each other, it would be very hard to do that.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I would say about this, about family relationships or friend relationships, and the diligence idea for trying to attain excellence is there are some things that you can do diligently in relationships, and there are plenty of other times when it's on the fly. It's just what's coming at you, and you gotta figure it out. And so the faith aspect comes back to remember what comes out when you're squeezed. It comes out because you're usually squeezed by someone else. And
Like a
so
fart. Sorry, I couldn't help
no.
it. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. What comes out
So
when you
it's
squeeze
that
should be
diligence
Jesus. You know,
diligence is harder to
if you're a
diligence
Christian
is
anyway.
harder to pursue
Mhm.
when there's somebody else involved who may not be on the same page. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's why it's important to diligently pursue a good relationship with your family, but also your friends. You mentioned friends there too,
yeah, yeah,
and
friends
that's
always come up.
key. So, yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So if you have ideas about this and you think we're totally wrong, and you think that no, you do need to be domineering of your wife, please don't comment because I hate arguments. I really just
I
don't
hate
like them.
argument.
But you have your free
If
speech
you do
rights, and you
comment
can.
about that, you can comment to me because I
There you
love
go. There you go. Tell Dennis.
them.
Moving on. Whew. We're running long on all these today. So how about finance? Or sorry, fitness. Fitness.
Fitness,
Fitness might be the easy one.
fitness. Oh, yeah, that's super easy.
Let's race
Super easy.
through this one.
Yeah, race. Let's
Applying
race through it.
diligence and fitness for excellence.
Well, I don't know about you. I mean, you and I started this conversation, what, 6 weeks ago? I guess would be 6 weeks
This is
since we started.
episode 3, so
This is
6 weeks
episode
ago.
3. So,
Mhm.
and as we said back when we first started, was we're doing this because we wanted to talk to each other and share how things are looking in our lives and stuff. And I'm going to be honest. This one, even though it's the simplest one, it's also one of the hardest for me. For me, I'm not
Yeah, I
gonna
got you.
lie. I do. Um, I'm very good at maintaining a very simple, like, daily routine, which
Mhm.
is essentially going for a walk. Very long walk. I do a lot of long walks, and that ties in very closely with the faith. I spend those long walks. I like to call them my walks and talks with God, because they do. They help a lot. They keep me centered and they keep me fit ish.
Yeah.
But
Fetish.
I also I have to do the other part, which is pick up heavy things, you know. So sometimes you gotta pick up heavy weights. You gotta do your push-ups. You gotta do the other stuff, because just going for a walk every day is not enough to keep me fit. Yeah, it keeps uh, my cardiovascular system going well, and stuff like that. But I want to be able to pick up my kids, and as long as I can, and do other things that require stuff. So actually getting out there and doing stuff, I've been struggling. Last year I did great. I would run almost like 5-6 days a week and exercise and do, get a nice sweat
Okay.
going. And then, yeah, I don't know, it was around my birthday. It kind of dwindled off when it got cold, and then I never did start picking things up. I never did start picking it up again until recently. And so
Mm.
getting back into running and the heavier workouts has been a little tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's been
No,
tough.
it is. It is. I think
Yeah.
that's where the motivation sometimes comes in. but the diligence of every day. One of the things that I do in the physical, or that in the habits realm, for things that are more about my own personal habits, and we talked about fitness is more than just the physical, sportsmanship and things like that. It's readiness. Is I took a page from Jerry Seinfeld, who said he would write jokes every day, and he would, if he did it, he would do a check mark in his calendar or an X or something, and then he would just, his goal, his diligence then became, don't break that chain. And when you see on that calendar the X X X X X X X X X, it turns into a motivating thing to do it the next day and the next day.
That's something I might have to try, because that is something that I did do last year when I was running every day. I would weigh in every day. I would weigh in every day, no matter what. And I would write down the weight and the when I write the weight and the body fat percentage.
So
every day.
Oh, okay.
And it was it worked.
That physical reminder in your face, though, of it's on the calendar or it's on your phone or whatever. So I've taken up and I've taken that, and then
on the refrigerator.
The engineering idea on the refrigerator. That's even better place. The engineering idea of minimum viable product, which is what can we get out that will work, and then we can improve it over time, which turns into nightmares for software.
Kind of like this show.
Kind of like this show, yeah. Turns into nightmares for software users. But, so for instance, if your goal long term is a certain weight or it is a certain level of fitness, like what's the minimum thing you do every day to get you there? And so for me to maintain and get a little bit of an increase or a little bit of momentum towards my goal, it's at least 10 minutes of activity. That's it. At least 10. That could be walking the dog. It could be throwing the frisbee with the dog and doing squats while she runs. It could be getting up here and doing calisthenics and then lifting weights and etc. But whatever, at least 10 minutes. And if I go 30, that's great. But it's like, hey, I get to mark I do dots instead of X's. So I got colored dots. So I got my prayer time dot, I got my fitness dot, and I got my writing dot. And, if I got those three, then I'm like, hey, I got my minimums for the day. I am progressing towards my goal.
Hey, that's a really good idea. I like the dot, leaving a mark, leaving your mark.
Yeah.
On a calendar, on a piece of paper, something to say, okay, yeah. And especially when it's visible. If it's something that is visible and you can say, okay, I did that today. I did that today. I did, because, perhaps that's what I'm going to have to do to get back into the diligence of my physical fitness routine. I mean, because I do the minimum, walking. Okay. But I want more. I need to go more. I need to, and because it's important. It's important.
So I think the idea of consistency would be, if you do that minimum every day, then that's how you. I mean, there's this book that's really popular called Atomic Habits, and it's a little tweak on that idea of just start small, do a little bit every day. And I think with fitness and readiness, this one is easy to look at. Oh, I can make small little adjustments and just do them consistently. And then once I've got that as my habit, I make another little adjustment and his idea is that small adjustments compound over time into excellence.
And they do, as long as you maintain them. I mean, I've read I've read something similar in that, when you're going for example, doing a, man, my brain just totally forgot everything that I was on my, small, what were you saying? Small habits lead to big results.
Habits compound into big results or into excellence at a endeavor.
Habits compound into excellence. Yeah. No, I lost it. I mean, I hate when that happens. Do you hate when it happens? I hate when it happens. Man, I just like, no, but I do. I tell my students that all the time. I said, just my I shouldn't say students, they're my clients. And I tell them all the time, unless you want to talk to me every single day, which is going to cost you, you're going to need to put your work, put your work in aside from just talking to me once, twice, 3 times a week, or 5 days a week, or however many days a week you want to talk to me. And, and but you got to put in the work. And that means you're going to have to spend at least 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes minimum every single day, doing some reading, doing some writing, listening to a podcast, whatever, working towards your goal, because otherwise it's just, and
if you leave
and
off,
it's one of those things you have to choose it.
Right. And as we talked about in the beginning, if you try and just do it and take on this massive task, you're not ready and you're going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't built up the muscle memory to be able to do that thing at a prolonged level or at a large level.
Yeah.
Without that consistency.
Yeah, exactly. You got to start small. You got to work your way up. You don't start training for a marathon by running a marathon.
Exactly.
Just can't do it.
And
let's talk about money
on that one. If you have comments on that one, leave a comment.
Yeah.
If you're training for a marathon, let us know how you're doing it, and drink water.
Yeah, and what suggestions have you got for fitness?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got a million things. Yeah, and drink water.
Oh man,
very important. Stay hydrated.
All right, moving on. And we need to make this one fast. Okay, maybe the freedom can be fast. But
yeah, we can be fast with freedom.
Finances and fitness are not that different, really. Talking about physical, kind of habitual things that you're doing.
Habitual? What is your
habitual?
Habitual.
Yeah.
Habitual. They're not. And we don't have to dive deep into every single one of these.
Habits. I was about to say habits, but then
habitual. All right. So what do you do with regards to finances diligently? With every single thing that you do, when we're talking about diligence,
I feel like I spend money every day.
I'm very consistent with my spending of money. I'm very consistent. But we're not talking about consistency. We're talking about diligence. But see, diligence, just like consistency, diligence requires a goal. Consistency just requires you doing something over and over and over, right?
Very true. Very true.
In the name of finances, what would be a goal that you have that requires diligence? Because again, you can,
for me right now, I'm in the middle.
Diligently go to work every day.
Right. Right. All right. Which that's probably the best practice most people get for diligence is you go to work every day. Now, the question is whether or not you're actually doing it in a way that is edifying. And especially if you're a Christian, there's multiple places where it suggests that everything you do it as for the Lord, right? Mm-hmm. So everything you're doing, what? Missed that.
God, do all to the glory of God.
I've not heard that one. Okay. Yeah. So if it would suggest, you just derailed me, man. It would suggest that every activity in all of these arenas is an opportunity for worship. It is an opportunity and a more of a reason to pursue excellence instead of being a lazy bum, right? Mm-hmm. If we can pursue it excellently, then it brings glory to God, because guess what? We can do more with him than without him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And not only that, you'll be glorified for it too. That's one of the benefits.
You'll be blessed even if you don't necessarily achieve the success that you were hoping for.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So finances for me, I am like I mentioned previously, I am trying to build a business in the investment arena. That is alternative investments and cash flowing assets and things like that. And so the discipline for me is I had a couple of years of strong education. That was my effort at Diligence, was learning this new business. And now it's taken up the hard thing of finding assets for myself and trying to reach out to people who might be interested in the same. Meanwhile, I've got my publishing business that, is either writing stuff myself or working with other authors to get new books out.
Which is keeping you busy. So, I mean, and
It
that's good.
does.
You're being
It
diligent with
does.
that. So, I mean, and that goes with anything. I mean, I'm writing a course on entrepreneurship and business for my English and entrepreneurship. So, and one of the key things with any kind of diligence, and I want to keep it short, but a lot of people, their biggest goal is when it comes to finances, I think is a lot of people they're like, "Oh, I don't want to be rich or anything like that." Well,
Mhm.
people say they want to be rich. What they really want is freedom, right? Which we'll get to
Mhm.
next. Um, and one of the ways that you do that is by maintaining and having a well organized, well budgeted system. And so,
Mhm.
uh, you know, by being diligent with your savings, with your bill payments, with your just
Yeah.
tracking your finances, because and this is a big issue because I've been reading all kind of our news lately, people putting their groceries on their credit cards and
Rent
things
on the
like
credit
that,
cards,
rent on their credit cards.
expecting
That
millions to be
is,
up for eviction soon here.
yeah, I've heard, yeah, millions, like 3 4 million people up for it, maybe more, for eviction. I don't want to get into the politics and stuff behind that, but mm, it is now more than ever. It is people are need to wake up and start taking care of their
Right.
financial health
Yeah.
in this matter, and part of that requires swallowing the bitter pill and going, okay, I need to
Mhm.
be disciplined and then diligently attack the problem.
Yeah.
First, you got to recognize you have a problem, and if you are using a credit card to pay your rent or buy your groceries, you might be in a little bit of a problem. Of course, I mean, what example have you got? You
I
got
would say,
you learn the example that has been given to you by your father,
yeah,
daddy government,
yeah.
Uncle Sam.
No, I
Spend
think
money you
most
don't
of
have.
us, well, there is that,
Raise
but
the debt ceiling.
most of us experience the same from our actual fathers, if we have
There's
fathers
that.
around,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And it's one of
Yeah.
those things, is self discipline. Is
Yeah.
you gotta cut the fat, you gotta watch yourself and watch what
Yeah.
you're spending on, and be on the same page as your spouse or any other
Hmm.
people who
Hmm.
you are financially connected with. And I would say it's not just if you're putting groceries on the credit card. If you are not independently wealthy at this stage, you have very little time in which to get your house in order before there's a storm. I mean, I think we've already seen some of the storm, but we're in the
Hmm.
middle of the beginning, I think. And
Oh yeah.
I think that the stage is set for another decade of stagflation and underperformance and and pain,
Yeah. Well, yeah. But the good
potentially
news
worse than
is,
the
I mean, look,
70s.
the good news is even during the Great Depression lasted a decade. It took a
Mhm.
it took it took a decade to get out of the Great Depression, and it wasn't, and it was mostly because the government just kept on adding to the problem. But guess what? People did get rich. There are opportunities for people to take advantage of, but it takes diligence, it takes education, it
Yeah,
takes
community,
discipline, and it
the
takes
right
community.
community. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
Hey, on that note,
Phew.
let's talk about some fun stuff. But tell us first of all, why? Why?
Why?
No,
What?
tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. I know
Oh yeah.
we got a little taste of the politics. What do you think about? What do you think about all this financial stuff? Leave a
Yeah.
comment down there.
Yes, please. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Tell us.
We do plan on getting back to those comments and stuff.
Hmm.
Man, freedom. How can you be diligent in freedom?
Oh well, I can see what. Well, how about we just talk about real quick? I mean, we don't have much time, but um,
We
if
are
you're
running
not
along.
diligent in freedom, what you get is what you're seeing now.
Mm.
What you're seeing in the world today is what happens when people are not diligent with their freedom. Ronald Reagan said something along the lines of freedom is only
Freedom is
one
never more
generation
than a
away.
generation away from extinction, I think was
Yeah,
how it went. Freedom is
and I
never
think
more.
that, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And we are seeing that right now.
So it's interesting because I hear since college, I've heard people every time there's a Republican in office, people on the left are saying that we're losing our freedoms. Every time there's a Democrat in office, people on the right are saying we're losing our freedoms.
Two movies, same screen.
Two
Same
movies,
screen,
same
two
screen.
movies.
Yeah, two movies. Yeah, two same screen, two movies. I've never heard it put that way. It's one of those situations where they can both be wrong. They can both be, or one of them can be right, or they can both be right in different meanings.
Well, there's something that I've been thinking about recently. Somebody recently said, they were talking about. I wish I could remember the guy's name. Um, he was talking about civil war,
Mhm.
not the Civil War, but a civil war in the future, and he was talking about, and his perspective was very of the left and of the mainstream, and um, but he said that there are people who believe that there's a fundamental threat to democracy,
Mhm.
American democracy. And it got me thinking. And I said, all of the politicians, especially, I mean, you saw the most famous speech recently, with all the red backgrounds and stuff. Um, you know, and that's just another example of people talking about threats to democracy, threats to democracy, threats to democracy. And I've always hated when people talk about democracy, especially when American democracy. For decades, I've been hearing people talk about American democracy. America has never been a democracy.
No.
It's a republic with it's a representative republic.
Yeah.
It's not
Democratically
with
elected
certain. I mean, with
representatives, but
certain people are elected democratically. Yes, certain people are elected democratically, but it's still a representative republic based on laws. So you have certain people who are worried to death about losing the democracy, which is dictatorship by mob, and there are certain people who are worried about losing the republic, which is the Constitution and everything else. So the side that protects freedom is, in my opinion, and I think I have evidence to back it up, is the side that goes with the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the things that actually legally define what freedom is and who gives us that freedom. That would be God. So,
which is where I go back to they could both be right, but they have different definitions.
exactly, that
And
was
so
my
when you're
point of
using
going with that.
different
Yes.
definitions for the same word,
Mm-hmm.
two people can seem to be right, but once you merge those definitions, they can't both be
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that is basic logic. If you have two people saying opposite things, they cannot both be true in the same sense. And so
Yeah.
that I think
No,
is
you're
that I
absolutely
think
right.
is where we're at. I think the core of the division is that you have a group of people who are looking at traditional understandings, and you have a group of people who are looking at uh, modified understandings, wherever they come from.
Mm-hmm.
Progressive. Some people would say Marxist. I know Robert Kiyosaki's big on the Marxist thing, but from different
He's right.
ideas
Well, no, I mean,
other than
right.
the American founding. Well, some of them might come from like the French revolutionary, efforts or Enlightenment period. There's some similarities to that too, which were not
True, but I
Marxist
mean, they were like
specifically.
they were the proto Marxists.
Yeah. So I mean, in that sense, there is just this challenge, right? That is
Mm-hmm.
what I see as the core division. And when we exercise our freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution, one of the things that I see is not just that we are celebrating and showing the excellence of the constitutional system and the freedoms as guaranteed, but we are, when we defend our freedoms or when we defend our rights, we are also defending the rights of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
If you let somebody walk over your rights, then what's to stop them from walking over everybody else's rights? But if
That's a
you
good point.
stand
That's a
up
good
and
point.
say, not just for me, but for everyone, these are the
Mhm.
rights God gave us. Now,
Mhm.
if you're going to invent new rights, that's a different thing again. But that diligence of exercising those rights and standing up for them and engaging in the a small R republicanism in
Yeah.
civic society,
Yeah. Yeah.
in a civil way,
Yeah, and that's the key point:
preferably,
engagement,
if
and
possible.
you should, and as with every other level of diligence that we've talked about, you got to start small. So start at the local level, and then work your way up
Yeah.
when you
Yep.
want to talk about engagement.
Awesome.
Don't put it all at the federal side, because that's in my opinion what causes all the problems to begin with. Put it all on the federal side and fart. Sorry.
All right, moving on quickly here. Oh man, we're gonna go long here. Hope you don't mind, folks.
We're gonna go long. We are
Getting back
long.
into the news and the stuff about
Back into the
being informed or
news.
uninformed.
You know, Mark Twain is famous for saying that if you don't read the newspapers, you are uninformed, and if you do read them, you are misinformed. Boy, oh boy, is that true? It probably is true, but at least you'll be well read. Now, it's long been my personal belief that reading the news is one of the best ways for a language learner to pick up a language fast. That's why I coach my students in how to read the news in the most efficient way possible in order to maximize their learning. So, my students who are consistent and diligent in their reading have reported back to me that their fluency and comfort level in speaking has uh, continually improved almost effortlessly, and they don't have to slog through boring textbooks or memorize vocabulary that is so quickly forgotten without any context. So, if you or if someone you know is looking to improve their English for business or conversations, check out my Instagram page, instagram.com/allaboutEnglishLearning. And there's an underscore between each word. You can easily find me there. And there's a link down in the bio. It'll take you right to my amazing talker profile where you can book a trial lesson with me. And that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. All righty.
All right.
We forgot to ask again, but if you would like to leave a comment about the
Are you
politics,
still
we
here?
don't talk about politics all the time, but if
We
you'd
don't,
like
but
to,
we have to touch on it sometimes.
go for it, especially about the freedom aspect. Yeah.
I think so, without a
All
doubt,
right.
for the freedom especially. Yeah,
We are going to move on to our final segment, and I kind of wanted to leave a little bit of extra time. We are renaming this one too. Our final segment is now the Fool's Errand segment. So if you
so
happen to
much
stick
better than
around,
dog's vomit. I'm just saying, so much better than dog's vomit.
how would you know what dog vomit tastes like?
Well,
If we are
let's
getting to,
leave
yeah.
that where alone.
So if getting to this fool's errand, the idea here is that we are sharing wisdom, but there's also a lot of other ideas floating around, most of them on the newer and untested side, that if you follow them, they will take you on a wild goose chase towards folly and foolishness. Even though if you really look into it, most of these ideas have their own long train of sadness, I would say, of people who have
Long
followed them.
train of sadness. That's an interesting way of referring to going down the primrose path, wouldn't you say?
Going down the
Long.
primrose. I'm saying, like, a lot of them do have older either ideas that led to these ideas, or they've been around, they've just been reworded. So the one we're going after today is one that I've seen a lot lately that is going to require a little bit of explanation, but it's "you deserve it." And the memes look kind of like this: yes, you do deserve it all. Or if you feel like you deserve better, it's because you do. Or some other variation of that idea of whatever it is, you deserve it. Like that
And this
could go
is one of those
horribly wrong if you
things.
take that
This
idea
is one of
literally.
those things that it's like you'd said in the last segment. There, it's one of those cases where it's like it's it could be true and it could be false. It's like, you know, but it comes down to being based around feelings. Like it says,
Mhm.
if you feel like you deserve better, it's because you do. Well,
Yeah.
it's all a matter of context, isn't it? You know,
It
and
depends. Let's look at
but
the word deserve. What does the word deserve mean?
that is a good question. It's something that you've earned or merited.
Or merited, or something you're worthy of for because of a position you have, perhaps.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know,
yeah.
like if
Okay.
you're a judge,
Hmm.
the assumption is you deserve some level of respect. There's certainly a level of decorum
Respect my
because
upper
that
back.
judge has the power to hold you in contempt and put you in prison.
Well,
So you
yeah.
would,
If
of
he didn't
course,
deserve a level of respect, then there would be no way to have contempt for them, right?
right,
Mhm.
right.
Right.
But in
So
general, so that can be a
so
positive or negative, right?
that's a positive. That's a well. When you put it that way, I mean, it's generally going to be a positive. But I
But
mean, what
deserving,
about when we use the term he deserves the punishment he got?
well,
You
that's what
know,
I say. It's a negative.
that's
You've
that's
earned
why
the
I
punishment you
say it has
received.
to do with yeah, something you've earned. I mean, as a judge,
Yeah.
you've earned the position of judge. You've earned in most of those positions is a level of achievement that you have earned through diligent work.
Yes.
You see
Yes.
what I did there?
Ah,
Um,
yes. I,
whereas
if you didn't know, this is related to the entire show.
amazing. So
This is that
whereas
that
the
that that.
concept these days
Mhm.
seems to be just for your sheer existence on planet Earth, you deserve better. You deserve
Yeah.
some good thing.
Yeah.
You deserve a break today. Which company has that slogan? You deserve a break. I forget which company has that. McDonald's? No, they're
I don't.
loving.
I don't.
Burger King? No, I don't know what Burger King. They
Sounds
can't
like a
have it your way.
coffee or a
Have
or
it
a
here.
candy company.
Yeah, you deserve something today, right? You deserve a so yeah. So where does that come from? Where does this feeling of entitlement come from?
Mm, I don't know. This is the idea, though, is that if you buy into this particular meaning for deserve and
Mhm.
this use of deserve in a colloquial context, if you buy into that and kind of let that enter your thinking in your heart, it will be the thing that sabotages your ability to consistently perform and to try to pursue excellence through diligence.
Oh,
Because
without a doubt.
you cannot hold the idea of I'm going to work my tail off to get to that thing and I deserve something else,
Well, why
or
would you have to
even
work your
I
tail
deserve
off?
that.
Yeah,
What's
why
that?
would you work your tail off if
If
you
you
deserve it?
deserve it, exactly.
It's I
You've
mean, let it
already
go.
earned it, right?
Uh-huh. Right.
If you don't have it, then somebody has
Hmm.
perpetrated an injustice upon you,
Yeah.
and,
So
and
I
so if
think
yeah,
mhm,
that's
yeah.
the idea, or that you can't hold those two things in that way. Now you can
And
say
that's
I'm going to earn it,
mhm,
or you can say I did the work, and so I do deserve it because you've already done the work.
mhm.
But to say I deserve it for existing, or man, I had a hard day, so I deserve a drink. Like that's the other variation
Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
not just I deserve something better or even I deserve something good because of my existence, but I deserve to treat myself extravagantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is that. I mean, I deserve a lot of. I mean, people do this, and we could do a whole five Fs about this whole thing. We could. I mean, no, I'm serious.
Maybe we
I mean,
will.
think about. I mean, think about that. Hey, I deserve a donut because I did 50 sit-ups today, or crunches. Nobody does sit-ups anymore. But, um, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
I
but
think
yeah,
that
you're absolutely right. But just to bring it home, because I know we're over time, you
mhm,
are right on the nose about um, how this will totally derail you from the track of success. The minute you start assuming that you deserve anything especially without earning it. But even if you feel like you have earned it, that doesn't mean that the world owes you a recognition for it. And I think that's why the Bible talks about humility a lot. Being humble. Being humble reminds you that even if you feel that you deserve something, it's not you who is the final arbiter. You're not the final judge at the end of the day. At the end of the day, there's only one judge who's going to be deciding what you truly deserve.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't mean for that conversation to go that way. I meant to say, I meant to say, get your butt to work and stop expecting things for free.
I think it's also an unexpected. So even within that framework, like we've been talking about diligence all day long, and Proverbs we read some Proverbs about diligence. Mm-hmm. If you jump to the next book, Ecclesiastes, it's very clear that Proverbs is the way things ought to work and maybe mostly work. Ecclesiastes is sometimes you don't get what you deserve. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a bad thing. But very often in life, people work their tails off and don't get what they've earned.
Yeah.
They're shortchanged. Yeah. Somebody teaches them. Somebody does do something unjust. Mm-hmm. Or just, hey, there's a tragedy that you have that nobody has any control over. Mm-hmm. You didn't deserve that, but life happens. And so your pursuit of diligence in order to be excellent is one of the best ways to overcome that and leave off the I deserve it.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. You don't always get what you deserve. And that is tragic, but it's also a life lesson. So it's a good point. All right. I think we deserve to take a break. And
the audience
call it a night for me, because the audience deserves a break. My butt deserves a break. I got this. I gave up my chair for a bouncy ball, man. So one of those yoga ball thingies, and it's great for sitting down for short periods, but not this long.
All right. So if you disagree, agree, don't know what the heck we're talking about, go ahead and leave a comment. Thank you for joining us. This has been.
Can I leave a comment now? I don't know what we're talking about.
This has been Dad's Save the Internet. And again, we hope we can earn your subscription. We're live every other Wednesday at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. And, this is the first show on the internet with two brothers and dads trying to help each other be better so that we can make the whole internet better. Because if we're not trolls, then hopefully we can just improve life all around.
Yeah. What you said, that wasn't in the script. What was that about trolls?
Wasn't in the script.
I don't live under a bridge. No, who you calling a troll?
But if you are a Billy Goat,
if you're a Billy Goat, no comments from the Billy Goats.
All right.
Especially the gruff ones. All right, look, if you like hearing like what you heard, help us out, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, leave an honest review. Tell us how you feel. Look us up on Instagram, Facebook, and pretty soon we'll be opening up a community on Locals so you can really join the conversation.
Amen. And if there's something you'd like to see from us in Locals, then let us know that too. Thanks for joining us, folks, and have a great week.
See you in 2 weeks.